On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks took care of business and they stood on business against the Detroit Pistons. I'll tell you why that's a great thing on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic and this is Locked On Mavericks.
How about 10 Mavericks? NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, where we let it ride. Every win. There haven't been many the last couple weeks. You gotta let it ride when you can, even against the Pistons. Like the great poet Kyle Kuzma once said, you just don't want it to be you who loses to the Pistons. And then they did twice. Today's episode, we'll get into the Mavs win against the Pistons. We'll break down the scuffle, the kerfuffle that happened between PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford and Jalen Duren and all that. We'll talk about why that was a good thing for the Mavericks. We'll get into Tim Hardaway Jr. had a bounce back quarter. Just kind of a quarter. We'll talk about that. What does that mean? Kyrie picking his spots. I think that's something that was awesome. And then we'll start with Luka Doncic. Let's start with Luka Doncic because he made history, became the first NBA player to record 6 consecutive 30-point triple-doubles in the Mavs win, which is wild to think like Westbrook didn't do that. 6 straight 30-point triple-doubles. Westbrook never did that. Oscar Robertson never did that. He's on an insane run right now. And this is coinciding with the Mavs losing, basically. Go back 6 games. Pistons, Miami, both wins. Good on those. That's 2. Indiana, loss. Philly, loss. Boston, big loss. That's 3. So one more, and then the Toronto. So they're 3-3 in the 6 30-point triple-double run right now. But the Mavericks, I think, took care of business. And again, Luka continued to take care of business in this run. Not the best first half. I thought his defense was awful in this game. Like, just awful. Lost 5 out of 6 defense energy from Luka in this game. They kind of didn't need it, so I get him taking care of business, picking his spots. He wasn't going to be as locked in, but you can't be like letting guys behind you, like cutting back door and all that kind of stuff. It was just a little too much of a foot off the gas for Luka Doncic, and that's why played the first half almost even. 35 points in the first quarter, 34 in the second, and the Pistons scored 33 and 32 in the first 2 quarters. You know, it felt like they played them pretty even the first half of this game, and that you got to do better. They got the win. And so I'm watching this game, and I watched it delayed because I went out with a lot of the Locked On hosts, Locked On Reds, Jeff Carr went out with him, Locked On Saints, Ross Jackson was with me, and then one of our producers, Ali Bronson, and then also went out with Berkeley, who's our marketing manager. She got married over the weekend, and so that's why this episode is coming later than normal. Thank you to everybody for the text and DMs of concern that there wasn't an episode. I actually really appreciate that. But So we're getting to this game now, and I was watching it after the fact, and knowing that the Mavs were going to win this game, I wasn't as frustrated in the first half as I probably would have if I had not known the outcome of this game. You'd think you know the outcome of a game against the Pistons like this, but you don't really. But the Mavs took care of business. You got to give them, okay, they did that, and it started kind of in the second quarter where Luka just took over, 21 points in that second quarter. He goes, all right, we messed around in that first quarter. We played him too easy. And then he took over in that quarter and just 21 points. That was insane. So I guess not good of a first half of the first half. I'll say I'll put it that way for Luka. And then in the third quarter, they really clamped down. I felt like the defensive effort was a lot better. And then the Mavs came away with the win. And we'll talk about Tim Hardaway Jr.'s third quarter because I think that was when he kind of bounced back a little bit. So we'll talk about that a little later. But Luka Doncic, 6 consecutive 30-point triple-doubles. He's been absolutely insane. He's done all the things. He's done all the things an individual can do to win MVP. That stretch of 5 losses in 6 games, I think, because it took them out of reach for that, like probably the playoffs. It's so tough. They're not that far out of it. They're one game out of Phoenix, and they have the tiebreaker with Phoenix. They're 3 games now out of the Pelicans for 5th. So that one is tough. You only have 18 games left. It's really hard to overcome even 3 games with just 18 left. And so because they went on that bad stretch, that's one of the reasons why it hurt so badly, is because I think that took Luka out of contention for MVP. If he could get to 5th in the West, then I think your argument for, well, the team's not winning any games. If you can get there, then I think that argument goes down. And so, but they take care of business, and they stood on business. And what I mean by that is there was a moment when in the 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Mavs clearly had this game. It was a 20-point, it was a 20-point game, and the Pistons offense just didn't look like it could generate enough like of a run, or their defense couldn't stop the Mavs consistently enough. The Pistons defense allowed 35, 34, 35, and 38 points in each of the 4 quarters. I mean, they're struggling over there. And so there was a moment where Daniel Gafford got the ball under the rim. He got past 2 defenders. The ball kind of ricocheted off of 2 guys' hands. Then Daniel Gafford grabs it, and Jalen Duren comes flying from behind, and really hard foul. Almost tries to jump over him. Hard foul. Gafford falls down, and then Duren is just standing over Gafford. And so PJ Washington walks over and kind of just pushes him out of the way. Not even like a full shove, just like a little push out of the way. And he pushes him a little bit, and Jalen Duren takes exception to that and shoves PJ Washington back. And then PJ Washington takes a beat and goes, "Did that really just happen?" And then he leans over and shoves Jalen Duren back. And Jalen Duren kind of grabs the back of PJ's head a little bit and then tosses him to the ground as PJ is also tripping over Daniel Gafford in the midst of it. And it's a scuffle. Everybody comes together. Tim Hardaway's in the middle trying to push everybody aside. The refs are trying to push everybody aside and trying to get it to stop. And they end up calling 2 technical fouls on Jalen Duren. He gets ejected. Technical foul on PJ. That offsets. And then there was the original foul was on Ivy before Duren even got there, which is another reason why it was kind of a weird play, is because Duren came out of nowhere because Gafford had been beating them all night, beating the Pistons and beating them inside a lot. 7 of 7 for Gafford. Went to the free throw line 4 times as well. 7 rebounds for him and had 4 block shots. Just felt like he was owning the paint in this game compared to Duren. Only got to play 15 minutes, but 1 of 4 from the field and only 6 points. Just didn't have the same kind of impact as Gafford did. And so I think PJ standing up for Daniel Gafford, the Mavs coming around them, and those guys being new, I think that's a great sign of the Mavericks standing on business. All right, we're together in this. We didn't just leave a guy out to dry. We're here for each other. We're here for even the 2 new guys, who are the newest players on the team, are here for each other. And I think that's just a good sign. It's a good sign of they've got to keep building, because this team, it seems like they have these up and downs. It doesn't seem like it. It does. They do have these up and downs all the time. And so you have these up and downs. You've got to continue to build a foundation that'll allow you to not build your house on the sand. I don't know how many of you went to Sunday school growing up, but there's building your house on the rock, on the sand, and on I can't remember what the other one was. Rock, sand. There was a third one. I can't remember what it is. You're screaming at it right now. It's probably my mom. My mom's probably listening and telling me which one it is. She'll text me about it later. But you don't want to build your house in the sand. It feels like they've built their house in the sand. So at any time that it rains, and something bad happens, they lose a couple of games in a row, or they lose a game they're not supposed to, then they go on these streaks where they go, 2-5, 1-5, 2-6. It just feels like they have those moments. And so they've got to continue to keep building that foundation, and playing together and playing for each other is something that even Gafford has pointed out recently with their defense, where he says anytime somebody messes up on defense, there's just all these fingers pointing everywhere. Everyone's trying to figure out who did this. And a lot of times Luka's wearing the hot dog suit. That is a reference that some of you will get and will think it's great, and others of you will be very confused. And you know what? I'm okay. I'm not going to explain it. Coming up, let's talk about the other things that happened in this game. Let's talk about Gafford's impact on the game, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s third quarter, and Kyrie picking his spots. I think that he was pretty smart in how he picked his spots, even if he didn't have the greatest efficient scoring game. We'll talk about that coming up. Today's episode brought to you by Nissan. The 2024 Nissan Rogue has you covered for the perfect kind of city drives and great escapes. If you're that kind of driver that likes to push things a little further, if you've ever wondered what adventure could be around the next corner, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. So check out that 2024 Nissan Rogue. It's got Google built in, so you always have that assistant, the maps in the Google Play Store. You don't have to connect your phone, which can kind of be clunky sometimes. You're trying to figure out how to connect it. You don't have to worry about that. It's got that 12.3-inch HD touchscreen with the infotainment system. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Also, check out the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. Room for up to 8, expansive cargo capacity, advanced available 4x4 capability, 284 horsepower, up to 6,000 pounds of towing. When adventure calls, the Pathfinder is here to answer. So take the Nissan Rogue, the Pathfinder, or the Armada and go on your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. That address is NissanUSA.com. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. We appreciate each and every one of you for sticking with me and listening through all this. I ran into somebody at the grocery store today that recognized me from the show and gave him a sticker and got to talk about the Mavs, and that was great. I really enjoyed meeting you guys out in the wild, especially when I'm like staring, trying to pick out a candle. Just like a weird thing for somebody to like, hey, wait, are you? Yeah, as I'm smelling candles in the middle of an aisle. That was great. All right, Isaac, let's get into some more of this game. Kyrie Irving, I think, picked his spots well in this game. It's another one, and I've kind of been complaining about some of his games recently, his scoring games, where 21 points, 18 shots. It's not the greatest efficient game for a scorer like Kyrie. He didn't shoot the ball badly. He shot 50% from the field, 50% from three. I mean, that's actually really good efficiency. You'd take that every single day. But he's not getting to the free throw line, and he's not taking a ton of threes. He hit 3 threes, didn't go to the free throw line at all. Some of that's not his fault. Some of it is. And he's had these games where 21 points on 18 shots, 23 points on 19 shots, 23 points on 19 shots, 28 points on 20 shots, 19 points on 23 shots. That's his last 5 games that he's had, basically. But I think in this one, I'm not as upset about it because, one, they got enough scoring somewhere else. They got the Daniel Gafford 17-point game. They got the Tim Hardaway Jr. 17-point game. The Derrick Jones Jr. 12-point game. They got all that. And so they got some extras. Basically, everybody scored except for Maxey. And so they got extra contributions, so they didn't need him to do that, especially against the Pistons. But I did like what Kyrie did where he set the tone early. First play of the game, Kyrie, drive, floater. Second offensive play of the game, Kyrie, drive again. He missed, and then Derrick Jones Jr. got the steal, the rebound, and the N1 on that. But it was Kyrie the first couple of plays. And I think him setting the tone, honestly, is better for the Mavericks than even Luka setting the tone. I've talked about this with Luka at the end of the losing streak. I think Luka trying to set the tone at the beginning of every game by just trying to see if he's going to get the body bump fouls. He tried it again in this, and at the 6-minute mark, I just wrote down Luka is not getting the body bump fouls. He tries it every single game. Am I going to get these? I'm driving in. I'm driving into the rim, and if somebody bumps me, am I going to get the foul call? And a lot of time, more times than not, actually, he doesn't get those calls. And so him just doing that over and over again at the beginning of games, I don't know if it sets the right tone. And this team needs a tone set. They're not mature enough as a squad. We have seen this season. They are not coached well enough as a team to not set the tone well and then overcome it later and be like, all right, we'll turn it on when it has to happen. They have done it, but they can't do it consistently enough. We've seen it over and over again. And so I did like Kyrie doing that in the first quarter and then in the third quarter as well. Kyrie, 10 points in the third quarter. So basically got all his work done in the first quarter and the third quarter. And so I thought that was positive. Even though he didn't shoot the ball, or he shot the ball well, but even though he didn't have the best efficiency scoring game for the modern NBA, he still had, he picked his spots well, and I thought that was great. The much maligned Tim Hardaway Jr. had a good game. Was his dad in attendance? Yes. Does that theory continue to be true? Yes. His dad is in attendance, and when Tim Hardaway Sr. is in attendance, I think he's in the Hall of Fame now, right? Hall of Famer. When he is in attendance, Tim Hardaway Jr. shoots the ball really well and plays really well. His 43-point game a couple of seasons ago in Detroit, his dad was there. I think his 40-point game this season, his dad was there. Just happens all the time, and I think it's hilarious. But it's good. He had a bounce back. He had a good game, but he really only had like a good quarter, which is not like what you want to hear, but it is what happened. He only plays 2 minutes in the first quarter. Kid has really pushed him down the pecking order in rotation. He has been for most of the season the first guy off the bench. It's usually him and Maxey, first guys to come in. Since the trades has been like him and Gafford or Lively, depending on what they decided to do. And he wasn't. He was actually the 10th guy off the bench, the fifth total player off the bench. So 10th Maverick in the game at the 2-minute mark. And so he didn't really play a lot there. He took a couple shots, missed. Second quarter, he goes 0 of 2 again. And then in that third quarter, that's when he gets it going. 3 of 3 from 3. Scores 9 of his 17 points. And you're like, all right, we're getting some good Tim moments. He got another 4-point play opportunity chance that he missed the free throw. He missed a couple of free throws in this game. But he had a good shooting quarter, and maybe that's enough for him to build some kind of foundation for this season, because it's just been really rough for him after these trades. It's been really tough. His decision-making has not been good. I thought his shot selection was a little better. The first 4-point play opportunity he had in the first half was an insane choice to just take a shot and it was a pull-up in transition basically, and he pulled up with a player right in front of him, got the foul, and hit the shot, so you felt really good about it afterwards. But then you think about it as they're showing the replay, and you go, dang, like that's a really bad shot to take so early in the shot clock. And you want to beat some of those like out of him. I shouldn't talk about beating players. It's a bad analogy. I need to come up with it. You hope that the coaching staff is coaching some of that stuff out of him. But it just hasn't happened. He's got the ultimate green light. He's going to keep getting shots. As long as he's in the game, he's got to keep taking shots. And that's what it is. But he had a bounce back quarter. Thought that was good. Solid. Better decision making from him overall. He also had a couple other really good passes in this game. What did he finish with 2 assists, right? He finished with 2 assists and another really good pass to Gafford. He has some kind of connection with bigs going at the rim, which I think is a positive thing and makes no sense with the rest of his game. But he has it. We talked about the scuffle, talked about Kyrie, talked about Luka, talked about Gafford. Derrick Jones Jr., his role on this team is interesting now. Kid has gone back and forth between Josh Green and Derrick Jones Jr. and who's going to start in that spot. And Josh ended up playing more minutes. He played 27 minutes, but he ended up playing garbage time as well. And so that's not a huge thing. Derrick Jones Jr. played 18 minutes, but he helped set a tone early too. 12 points for him. He had 4 steals in this game. His defense was helpful. I thought he was helpful on Cade. And the one thing that really changed this game that I didn't even mention early on, the Mavericks did make an adjustment. In the third quarter, one of the defensive adjustments the Mavericks made was to send doubles to Cade Cunningham. Because Cade was killing him. Cade in the first half, what he had, like 24 points for Cade in the first half, 4 assists. And they just sent 2 to him. And the Pistons just don't have enough good shooters and good playmakers to do what the Mavericks do when Luka gets doubled like that and to take advantage of it. And so that was a good adjustment. Should it have come earlier? Yeah, probably. When he was killing them in the second quarter, yeah, they probably should have done that. Gafford also really takes advantage of these teams that have bigs but play small, but then also have bigs play small and can't shoot, which is like the worst kind of NBA team, which the Mavericks were at some points when Dwight Powell was starting for the Mavs for a while. They have bigs, but that can't shoot, and so you don't have as much spacing, but then you also don't have the benefits somewhere else. And Gafford really takes advantage of that too. Another really concerning thing in this game, I've talked about a lot of positives, but a concerning thing to me is they continue just to let these motion shooters get all these open shots. Simone Fontecchio, another one. He loves playing the Mavericks. He's got to be some of his best games of his career have been against the Mavs for the Jazz and now for the Pistons. 27 points for him off the bench. 32 minutes, 4 of 5 from 3, 5 from 5 at the free throw line as well. Had a couple other shots. Hit a buzzer beater that was just a nuts shot. And yes, some of these guys have just been hitting shots, and it's just been bad luck. I saw somebody, I think it was Iztok Franco on Twitter, mention the Mavs have kind of been unlucky with some of the 3-point shot, and that's one of the big differences between the Mavs Western Conference Finals run in defense, where they had good luck with teams not hitting threes, and the Mavs themselves were hitting threes, where this recent run where the Mavs haven't been playing well at all, they've had really bad 3-point luck, where teams have just been hitting their threes. But it's just another game where they're letting a movement shooter, and it's kind of on Luka, kind of on Tim Hardaway Jr., kind of on whoever is on him, because they put some of those offensive players on movement shooters, and the guys that just move all the time. Think about some of the guys that had really good games against the Mavericks lately. Your Duncan Robinson, your guys, Miles Turner is kind of like this too. Your there's been guys. Obviously Max Strus. that was the greatest example of it, where they just let them go and they just don't take advantage of, or they just don't deny the ball. They just don't. It's not hustling. You're not hustling on defense, and that's where some of the frustration with the defensive effort comes. Is these guys, you just have to follow them around. It's hard, very hard, to keep following a guy like that around, because all his job is, he's like a JJ Redick, a Klay Thompson. He's just gonna run around the whole time. He's gonna run here and run there and run here and run there and run here and run there, and you just got to follow him. And it just didn't happen as much in this game, and so he got some open shots. One of his first scores of the game, I think, was him cutting backdoor on Luka, and Luka just didn't see him, just lost him, and then boom. Mavs get the win. They took care of business. They stood on business. There's still some things that I'm concerned about with this team, obviously, but some solid things. Continuing to build back up the foundation from that losing streak, because that was tough. It was only a 3-game losing streak, but 5 out of 6 losses, which is bad. So there you go. We'll be back later tonight with Reggie. I'll have a podcast with him as well, where we break down the last 18 games of the season, what the Mavericks need to do. And then Slightly will be back. He has not completely given up on the Mavericks. Slightly will be back to Monday night when we do the Bulls game. And so he'll be back and should be back for the rest of the season. But yeah, he just took a couple of games off, which is totally great. And yeah, we'll be back on that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.